I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Let's go ahead and do a roll call. Is Tess here? Bill?
I am here.
It's Jim. Lisa's here. Andrew?
Here.
Catherine? Yeah. Doesn't look like I've here for students.
I'm gonna put them on the distribution list that looking at. Yes, yes.
I think Bill sent it out.
Yeah.
I did send it to you,
Okay.
but we got to put it on.
Go ahead and open it up to privilege of the floor. Is Mr. Warren here for privilege of the floor?
So Mr. Warren's actually from the CDTC and he's here just to listen.
Excellent. So then we'll move on. Old business, the draft comprehensive plan chapter for mobility and transportation.
Oh,
I think, well, Elizabeth was kind enough to draft a 2 or 3 page introduction to chapter 7 of the transportation plan. And we've taken a look at our current plan and some of the items that are there. And then had some discussion on what we would like to see, really, I guess, organization of the new chapter 7. And what we thought we'd do is to get the committee together again. We talked about dropping some of the things that have kind of aged out of the current plan. The current town plan kind of identifies 4 categories where they have for goals. One is pedestrian safety and bike safety, which we like a lot, want to keep that and include implementation tasks. Then they have one on arterial management, where that's something we'd have to look at. I think it's like looking at the state roads, county roads and those, and then whether it's a topic area that would be folded into something else or whether it's we could keep it, that's in there. And then transportation planning, it has kind of 4 short bumper points, and I don't know whether that's something that would just kind of generally be covered in the chapter itself. And then neighborhoods where they break up the town. Looks like they've looked at about 10 different neighborhood areas. And the last comp plan, I think, did break out the organization of the comp plan by neighborhood. But, you know, I don't know if we want to approach it that way. I think the task for our comp plan committee would be to kind of identify what we see as the major goals that we want to incorporate in the transportation chapter. And then at least identify those. We wouldn't necessarily have the implementation tasks at this point, but we'd kind of, I guess, at our meeting on September 9 with the comp plan committee, say here's kind of our structure for how this chapter might look and some things that we're going to try to do. And then we'll try to fill those in with items from our survey that came up, chat question 14, which Carla Dougal summarized, which is getting some neighborhood input. And really, I think kind of a shift in emphasis. It's transportation mobility, that instead of just kind of looking at cars, we want to look at pedestrians, bicyclists, and cars in the plan. And then I think meet with the comp plan committee and just kind of explain that we're going to stay with kind of a structure like they have it, identifying goals and then some implementation tasks. So our chapter will look like the other chapters in the plan, but they'll be quite different. And like some of the things that they have laid out in the in the plan, traffic volumes and other street things that they've done. A lot of it has either been accomplished or the items on, looking at Belltown Road are based on a study that's probably 30 years old, maybe 40 years old by now. And so, we need to drop material that's either been accomplished or not relevant, and then kind of sharpen up our focus, go from there. And I think, Catherine, you can jump in. I tried to summarize a little bit from looking at our notes on how we like the transportation chapter to look, and certainly you've taken a look at it and have some thoughts. So,
right. I think we were waiting to hear from the comprehensive plan group to find out what kind of format they were using, because we had just, written an introduction, and we didn't want to go any further from that, not knowing, how they were structuring the plan. So I think that's pretty much, you summed it up. There were some basic, I think, theme areas that we were looking at: safety, mobility, accessibility. I think there was another one, continuity, maybe, I'm not too sure. And we were calling the chapter itself transportation and mobility. Maybe that was the other. No, that is transportation mobility. And that was kind of, we were looking at the Utica plan, and we liked that approach, but we also looked at the Bethlehem plan. So we weren't going to call it just transportation. So we decided to go with something like that. But nothing is, we were just looking at it in a very general sense. So we haven't really gotten that far with it. I think once we meet with the comprehensive plan group, I think we will have a better understanding as to what direction we need to go. So that's about it, Bill. I can't think of anything else that we really covered in our last meeting.
in case you just joined us, we're talking a little bit about the comp plan and looking at our current plan, and then we have an upcoming meeting September 19 with the town's comprehensive plan committee.
So,
it's 30, I believe.
And I suggested that we might want to get our complete streets comprehensive plan subcommittee, which would be you and Carla and Catherine and I think Jim Levy and myself, and really anybody that wants to join us together, just to kind of focus on the transportation plan. And we did, I don't know if you have your notes, Laura, that the kind of 4 goal issue points we talked about were safety, connectivity, accessibility, and another one I can't read my own handwriting. And I was wondering if it's in your notes, does it say congestion or
Mobility?
mobility? Might be.
I do have that. I can look. I didn't bring those notes today.
Okay.
Comprehensive plan is September 19th at 6 p.m. And they are okay with just like talking about some changes that you guys want to make. I mentioned to them the transportation and mobility, and they really like that. So what they're going to do is they're all going to read that chapter prior to that meeting so that you guys can all discuss it openly together at that meeting.
And actually, I did have a question, which, we have kind of a spreadsheet on specific things, and we talked about putting that maybe as an appendix. I know the comp plan committee breaks things into neighborhoods. I don't know if that's something they're going to use in their report. And I don't know if we'd want to piggyback on that, where I don't know, either we had some recommendations that might pertain to state roads, county roads, town roads, or whether, we might want to look at the neighborhood categories that they're using, and then where we have specific projects in that neighborhood to, mention some of those that should be looked at. And I guess at one of our earlier meetings, we were like, these are recommendations are things to look at, that we're not trying to say these are set in stone in the town plan, that just, we have our overall goals in terms of connectivity and mobility and some projects that we think would fit those areas in these neighborhoods. And I guess that might be something we could talk about at our subcommittee meeting, which I wouldn't, hope we could set something up that we meet before the 19th to get more specifics on what our thinking is. And also, we've had some meetings where we have quite a bit of notes, and so we almost need to put our notes together on, an outline, I guess, a general outline for the transportation chapter of content.
Okay.
Hi, Carla.
I accidentally skipped over through that. Should we do that
Oh, yeah.
after old business, or?
I say once we're done with this item, we can skip back.
Is there any more conversation or comments about the draft comprehensive plan chapter for mobility and transportation prior to a subcommittee meeting? And do you want to set that time, or?
I probably should send a note out by email
You wanna
and
do it?
see what some time zone that work for people. And I would defer to Catherine. She's the chair of our comp plan.
I didn't know that. But that's
So-
fine. That's fine. I think we can just, we can just reach out to each other and see what day works.
We can certainly let the whole committee know when we're going to get together.
Well, Clearly, it will be sometime in September, so early September, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, if there's no further comment on that item of business, I just want to skip back to the minutes. I'm going to make a motion to approve the minutes from July 28th. If there's a second, or if there are amendments that need to be made.
Second.
Any dissenting? Anyone saying no about minutes? Okay, pass that. So back to old business. Wyoming Ave. Laura, are you able to give us a snapshot of how the public hearing went?
Sure, yeah. Bill attended to represent the Complete Streets, committee, and there was a resident from Wyoming Ave that attended. Both were in favor of putting the stop sign there. Bill brought up our memo that we had from putting the stop sign in there. Yeah, it was there was two comments and they were both in favor.
So what's the next step? Is it approved? And
So the next step would be the town board, bring forward a resolution to actually allow for the stop sign to be installed. And then, the highway department would install it. I know we've also asked, and I don't know if you know any more on this than I do, Ian, like the highway department to maybe clean some of the brush back or just, take away a little of the asphalt. I don't know if any of that's going to be included, but my understanding is that the stop sign's being put forth for the next town board meeting, which is September 26th.
So our recommendation for the stop sign is that the yield sign went through, but not the brush and bushes being cleared back.
I don't, because they don't put that into the resolution and I'm not the one that's in charge of the highway department. I'll definitely bring it up to them again. But I don't know
Because we can't
exactly
see
how
it.
that'll work again. Yeah, I know that's one of the issues, yeah, that we put forward before. So when we get them out there, I'll certainly try. It's written into the Complete Streets memo to look at the brush. But the town boards administratively, legally, they only took action on the stop sign. The supervisor would be the one, that could really tell the highway department to put the brush. Yeah, they don't really nice it like that.
So should a citizen ask the supervisor about that, or would that be most likely to be helpful?
Yeah, or I think Bill actually brought it up when he was talking at the highway committee meeting. But yeah, I would think that just a refresher to the supervisor to highway that it might be good to look at the brush while we're installing the stop sign would be helpful. I'll do it too, but
Yeah.
it does seem to be more powerful when it comes from other people.
Yeah.
United.
People did mention that, and particularly Frank and Jamie Champa that live right at Baker and Wyoming intersection, that Wyoming kind of has a curve, a gentle curve to the right, which makes it easy for motorists coming down Wyoming to kind of do a poor job of stopping. They kind of look over their left shoulder and they keep going. And if there are pedestrians kind of walking on the left side of the road as they should be. Oh, yes, it's yeah, this note went to police committee and highway committee and to Laura. So we had some other thoughts in there about,
Like she's saying,
oh yeah, they do, yeah,
Is it town property or is it their property?
they have communicated with the chief of police, I believe, the Frank and Jim and right. Yeah. So it should go to highway committee because they're the ones that do the brush trimming, but folks did point out that those motorists cannot often see pedestrians, especially when it's grown out because the shrubbery is there.
what's the last piece? Sure.
Maybe what goes in.
Even our committee, really, I mean, we would say, we think the road should be squared up a little more so that gentle curve is a more clear T just with the asphalt. So you come to the T, you have a stop sign there, you look left and right, and then you go. But at least coming down Wyoming, the highway department has taken the graffiti off of the current yield sign, and they have trimmed the brush back coming down Wyoming. And I think they've even done a little bit on Baker Avenue in front of the Champles home, but
So what I could do is I could, if you guys like maybe wanted to make a motion, is that I could email the town board recommendation from the committee today that says, we appreciate the consideration of a stop sign, we're still in favor. And we would also appreciate, re-looking at these other things we identified, which was pulling the brush back and maybe looking at the asphalt if possible.
I'll make that motion. So the motion would be to request a letter, something, or for us to write a letter
We can do a letter, I can do an email, whichever. The
So-
letter is more formal.
to draft communication.
Yeah.
Saying that we are requesting follow-up beyond the stop sign. Because we see it as a critical component to this solution, or open solution. So you want to second something like that,
yes, I
or amend it?
yeah, I would be happy to second that. But, so the items are certainly trimming back the brush. And maybe squaring up the intersection so it's more of a T intersection. And then, I mean, I did have some other thoughts. I feel good that they've decided to go forward with the stop sign. And part of that is, I mean, not just our committee. I really feel that there are safety things out there that we learned from the traffic data that the police department was kind enough to do, that there's a substantial volume of traffic on Wyoming, that it's a connecting street as it connects to Girling Street in the city. And so it runs into another connecting road, Baker. And so the stop is a better traffic movement thing. But some other things that and I don't know if the committee, if people want to read this note that I sent. I mean, we have before suggested that the town consider looking at an engineering study on Lexington and Baker to see if a four-way stop sign should be looked at there. And, then also at Baker and Lex, the cross traffic does not stop. You see those yellow signs that are on Knott Street. Like Dean and Grand Boulevard, several of them where you see the stop, but then it's got cross traffic. Through traffic does not stop. Now, cross traffic does not stop.
Stuck in the middle.
So those would be on Baker Avenue, on both sides of Baker Avenue at Lexington. So if we don't have a stop, but it at least alerts motorists that, especially since it's two ways of traffic. In other words, you have two lanes on Lexington. one a right-hand lane and the other a left-hand, so you have to get across two lanes. So that's important.
So I'll make the official motion that we are going to draft a letter that requests the town supervisor to follow up along with the points in the memo as it relates to brush clearing around the new stop sign. Second,
Second.
all in favor? Any noes? Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes.
Also, I just thought it's kind of you to attend and join our meeting. I was wondering if, our points in here about going from the stop to the yield made sense. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. Made sense, how we kind of had it laid out a little bit and looking at the traffic volume, the number of pedestrians.
Yeah, I certainly don't know if I'm a police. I don't want to speak for the police department. I've been to that intersection. I'm not 100% sure what problem issue is as big as it needs to be, and hopefully this will solve the neighborhood's concerns. And this is what people in the neighborhood feel they need to solve that. I think I'm okay. I thought your speech was very well thought out and elegant.
Hopefully, it's
Yeah, no,
accurate in there,
I
too.
will, we should find a time. I have quite a bit more data on some other streets. And the volume is, there's a lot of cars there, but it's not, I wouldn't classify it as a high volume road. When you start looking at some of the other streets in that town. But yeah, I thought everything was true. And if that's what the neighborhood feels, they need the stop sign. I tend to fall back to like crashes. And I know people talk a lot about near misses, but misses are crashes, and it's worked fine for a very long time. But if it needs to work more fine, hopefully a stop sign will do that.
Well, I guess I feel the neighbors are there, so they see the street
Yeah,
every
and-
day and they see the pedestrian volume.
And that's what I said.
They see near misses that we don't.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely yeah, it's definitely a through road, and I forgive me if I don't have the connector level that it's at, based on the width and the through.
She just is 6 foot. It's a normal width.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, it is.
I thought it was slightly higher, but
It's not.
I mean, if this is gonna help the residents, then yeah, I think it's hopefully gonna solve the issue that they're having here.
Yeah, so that'll go on the, like I said, I think, what did I say, the 22nd,
26th.
26th, that's what I said.
But I will say that I think Ben and I both appreciated the opportunity to meet with the chief to talk about that. And the fact that the chief's asked you to join our meetings, I think that's healthy, that as we get more intersections we want to look at the town, we can certainly share our analysis of what we
and
learned
I've got
and incorporate your data as well too. And at least a couple of suggestions. One is we did look at the traffic study that was prepared by the police department and the manual on traffic safety. You asked us to take a look at that, so we did.
Yep.
And some of the things that they say are, pedestrians and traffic volume and sightline, which we noticed was not good at Wyoming and Baker. And so following some of the things in the manual, it almost seems,
Yeah, I
Good
definitely
fit,
think
so,
you made a good argument for the replacement there, so hopefully it will. It's certainly not gonna get rid of the volume, but hopefully it'll address some of the near misses on Baker that they were.
Well, and I do, as Laura's mentioned, we want good communication, so we're really interested in the safety of residents in the town, bike, pedestrian, and cars, and working together is the best way to get there, so.
So let's move on. New business. Laura, are you able to give us some
Okay.
information about River's Ledge?
So I don't know that you guys, let me do this, oh, it's not here. All of you guys were here when we looked at this before, but this was a project that we've looked at before. It's come up again. And there are a couple reasons I wanted you guys to look at it. They did add,
Are you sharing that on it?
oh, whoops, no, I'm not. Hold on. Sorry, hold on. Virtual guys. Here. Okay. Thank you. Yeah, thank Okay, so. So, this is River's Ledge, which is on Aqueduct Road, which is, really close to the traffic circle before you get to the Rexford Bridge. And right now, the only thing that's built is kind of like inside, like you actually have to cross the bike path to get to the buildings. But they do have a proposal to put two buildings sort of on the outside. And we have looked at this before and we wanted to make sure that each of the buildings that were on the outside were connected to the bike path. So this was a specific,
Could you tell us what you mean by outside, Laura? I'm a little confused.
like sort of the outside of the
Riverside.
project.
Like
Yeah.
the Riverside and the
Yeah,
Aqueduct
the
Road
bike
side.
trails were in the, so they're closer to the main road.
Right. Yeah, so everything right now is,
Oh, it's on, oh,
yeah.
it's north of the bike
This
path,
is
but
gonna
now,
be like, you'll be able to see.
oh, I see,
And
okay.
it's gonna be between the road and the bike path. And so when we looked at it before, we wanted to make sure these buildings were connected, so they added sidewalks here and here, and the sidewalk has a crosswalk to the road and then connects to the bike path here. So that was an addition that we got. And same was true over here. There were no sidewalks connecting this building to the multi-use path. So we got the sidewalks. So they added those sidewalks. Those were specific Complete Streets recommendations. To get between the buildings, we looked at sidewalk along Aqueduct Road, but it's not a great sidewalking place. So we made the sidewalks to the multi-use path. So to get between these two buildings, you take the sidewalk to the multi-use path and walk between the buildings. One thing that I just wanted to get you guys' take on is that they weren't able to do underground parking. So they have put the above ground parking all along the bike path. And this is like worst case scenario. But this is essentially what it's gonna look like from the bike path because it's higher than the bike path and it's on a retaining wall. So there'll be 3 sets of these parking stalls along the bike path, pretty close to the bike path,
But not on the riverside, correct?
but not on the riverside. It'll be on the side towards Aqueduct Road. And the architectural review board looked at this. They had them add these architectural features. They're also on the landscaping plan. They're proposing to add like trees, so that view that I just showed you doesn't show the trees kind of interrupting the view. But I did just want to get you guys' take on that. The connections I think are there, but it is going to be kind of a lot, I think, right there to the bike path.
My question is the above ground parking.
Yeah.
Would the cars pulling in there have to cross that crosswalk on Aqueduct across the bike path?
No, they don't have to. Okay. So, they're coming in from Aqueduct down here. And cars going into this building will drive and then take a right here and then come into the parking lot. There is, because we had the sidewalks both from the building down to the multi-use path, there is a crosswalk here. But that's gonna be pretty low traffic.
That's mostly residents. or-
Because I recall from my experience on the bike path in that area, there is a crossing on. Like if you're going down near Craig,
It's here.
you follow it all.
Yes. The crossing on Aqueduct Road is over.
Still right.
Okay, so
Yeah.
people on the
So-
senior center, they could, in theory, be coming from the other way to get to that. Like if they were going from the other side of town.
If they'd have to go all the way through the existing complex in order to come across the bike path.
Just see if I-
So I'm not so worried about the aesthetics as much as I am.
Safety.
Because I've actually been in an accident there. My mom stopped for a cyclist crossing. Got really, really hurt. She got it.
I'm so sorry. about
So,
that. On Aqueduct Road.
that
On
was
Aqueduct Road.
Yeah, 'cause
So
my
that
parents were
crosswalk-
really good at something.
That
my
crosswalk
experience.
is quite a bit over here.
Okay,
So you cross, that crosswalk crosses here, then you're on the riverside as it goes along here.
so your opinion is that the cars going in there.
Well,
Well,
to the
she's-
extent that you have to drive on Aqueduct Road, they will, but no, none of this interferes with that crosswalk at all. this is the bike path, and actually these are the entrances into the larger apartment complex.
Okay.
And so these are like essentially driveways that are crossing the bike path here, but they have to stop.
I'm familiar.
Yeah, yeah,
If they're
and
going,
yeah, so they're going into those driveways. These two aren't connected because this is all wetlands, but you could go into the driveway here. Well, you have to go into the driveway here to get to the senior center, or into the driveway here to get to the commercial building. Yeah. It shouldn't, I don't think it should interfere at all.
Is there any danger of those cars going onto the bike path? I mean, will there be? I don't know. Like a wooden post or something, so it's.
those are all.
Are you talking about driving down a bike path or driving over the?
No, coming in from Aqueduct and coming down by the buildings and then just continuing over the bike path so that somebody on the bike path would get a surprise of suddenly there's a car that's in the middle of the bike path.
But generally speaking,
It normally happens up near.
yeah, there are a lot.
So where
Um,
exactly in relation to the boathouse is this crosswalk where you're moving up there? You pull into the park, so Smith's is over there? Okay.
Just where the bike path crosses.
Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah, just right on the curve. Right. Just past the parking.
Going up on the road?
Yeah.
In the roundabout one in. So like right past that is where the crosswalk is. It's a high vis, push button.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, so she stopped at that crosswalk.
Yeah. No, she stopped in her car. Because the cyclist was crossing. There was another car coming around.
This is where the blinking crosswalk is. Yeah,
We put it, we put in like everything we can.
Well, there's
Stop
still the,
cars around, like a coffee shops on in there.
Yeah, they're actually proposing to put in a retro diner.
will go in the little.
In the big building.
In the senior.
Yeah. So here's the traffic circle and the bridge. Here's the bike path. Here's like the elevated, the elevated thing. And then here's where it crosses Aqueduct Road. That's where the cars should stop. There's a blinky light, but I've seen that happen. One car stops and the other one doesn't. It's very annoying. Then it goes here. What we're talking about is a building that accesses off of this little guy here, and then a building that accesses off of this little guy here. So it shouldn't affect that. This is kind of a funny crossing because it's a little bit at an angle as well.
Yeah.
That's a county crossing though, and they did put up the blinky lights, which I think helped.
It does definitely help, but I'm amazed, like, when the car should stop for me there. Like, I don't know.
I'm surprised. You stopped?
So right now they're doing this.
A blinky light.
Yes.
It was
Yeah,
just
it's
bad
just
luck on my end.
Well, no, I've actually seen that before.
Well, I mean, that was a difference, like, that the person, I mean, they probably,
Because the blinking lights were there at that time.
oh, it was even blinking and everything. Yeah, and they were just distracted.
And it's
Most getting used to a blinking light being there that I went and tried the one out at St. Joseph's and River Road. And it's dangerous. You don't stop. Cars are coming both ways. You push the button. And yeah, you can stand waving your arms in the crosswalk. And they go zipping by. So I'm maybe it may take a bit. Yeah, the blinking lights were blinking. The cars did not stop.
I'm gonna bring it back to Rivers Ledge, sorry. I have a couple of comments. If nobody else wants to say something about the parking, senior center, happy to let someone else go first.
Will they put us, will they plow that section of bike path? Because they don't plow every section of bike path.
They will not plow that section of bike path. That's not in their section that they plow.
Okay,
I would say it used to be a junkyard that would see, so that me looking at the back of a parking garage is no problem.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's a really small price to pay to get that revenue in and to have more residents in the town. Like it's really a no brainer. They can't do underground parking. It's
Yes,
just for rivers. Yeah, so
And it's a place for seniors to move to the state.
we need that in this area.
And I think it'll even look better than that if they can get the vegetation to grow.
Trees, yeah.
But it is it's gonna be a long section of buildings very close to the bike path.
It might be something we could put some park benches.
There are benches there already.
I don't even look that direction. I look over.
You live towards the river.
I'm looking at it.
Go ahead.
There are sometimes snakes along the path that pop up. So I don't know if there's snakes.
Yeah, my daughter actually ran over one. Right, very close to there.
I ran over two.
And that's not super unusual for like urban. It's not super unusual for like urban. to have-
Just ask on the snow removal. Will the apartment managers take the snow off the bike path there, since it's kind of a internal
In
movement
between.
there that, I mean, can they ask the county for permission to remove? They could be required. Well, I can like, well, if they ask permission from the town, can we plow the snow off the bike path because our residents use it as a way to move around internally with the town?
With the town and shirts and stuff like that.
So if they do it, they're assuming the liability for plowing the snow.
It's not that people won't be able to get to between those two buildings in the winter though. They'll just have to walk a little longer because they will plow.
Parking lots.
So yeah, so I just go back to here. They will plow this. That'll be totally plowed. In the winter though, that won't be plowed.
Since the cars can't just drive.
Right.
Do you know what type of vegetation they were thinking of putting up or?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. It looked like on the plans, it was Norway spruces.
Hmm.
Which is probably a good choice. It'll just be a question of whether or not there'll be too much shade. And it would look not great if they all died and they were very scraggly. So we
As
might
long as
just,
it's not like crap.
it's not,
Right,
it's
you're
not,
Trails where it's like, oh, that's good.
is it true?
I mean, most of my experience with riding over crab apples was at Elm Avenue Park for cyclocross practice, so I had it coming, but on an actual road.
Yeah.
So it sounds like the committee is generally in favor of proposed changes.
And you'll notice when those trees come down and then those buildings start to get built, that you'll get a lot of comments from the bikers and the pedestrians, like what's going on here and why is it so right to the bike?
Yeah.
So it's just good to know what's going on because you might get questions.
Great, let's move on to the discussion items. Do we have updates on the grant for St. Joseph?
Yeah, so the update is that the lights did get installed and they are blinking and it's still blinking. Really sad. But it's better than no lights at all.
Yeah.
And better than
Even the ones in front of the co-op, you still have to watch and make sure motorists stop before you. So it's just true in every crosswalk in town because it is best.
I live right
Then
on
there-
that. I walk there all the time. So.
like I think what is needed is that crosswalk to be there and people get used to the lights coming on and stopping. Like you're gonna have to like catch people and actually see other cars stopping there to get used to.
I think it's similar to Aqueduct. Road.
Yeah, those are a while.
I mean, also, I don't always use it in St. Joseph's, like, but like, I think I'll just make it a point to like always push the button so they can start seeing it blinking
Yes.
on.
Yeah, the drivers have to get trained as they go to Capel or go to GE or the school or whatever that, and I do know that they do have, like on Rosendale Road, they've got a sign before you get to the crosswalk that alerts you to, and I wish they had the blinking lights or something to really alert drivers that, hey, there's a crosswalk.
For the record, actually, Aqueduct only has a set of lights, I believe, right at the crosswalk. Like this one was so concerning that it actually has two sets of blinking lights. It has one farther ahead. When you press that button, it's actually setting 4 blinking lights up. Yeah. Sure about that.
That's good because that tells me the county knows that this is dangerous. And then they did it, so it's good. Did we ask for that on, Rosendale and Acton?
One of those, something that says, stop, it's the law for pedestrians and install it for like a week or two by the St. Joseph's Crossing.
Like, one of the electronic things saying traffic change, pedestrian crossing up ahead.
Almost July stuff for people in the crosswalk.
I don't believe we have any of like the things, we only have access to the, like, the DOT sign for highway. Yeah, like
The
we,
water and sewer sign.
yeah, it's
Okay.
kind of water and sewer through highway. It is possible to deploy those through the town. Typically water and sewer would, like, for some of, like, we are able to move it for like certain events.
Mhm.
But it is something that probably could be looked at.
Because if it went for just a week, I feel like it would, all those commuters would see it for a week and then be like, oh, okay.
Is it like the thing in the middle of the road that you're talking about?
No, like the one that says farmer's market right now.
Like the DOT board.
Oh, yeah.
And it would just be a short message like, stop for crosswalk usage, it's a lot, like whatever the shortest version of that one.
Add Xing ahead.
But that like, but I think that you need to say it's the law, like not just like here.
I mean, it's also the law not to speed around all the time, but.
Yeah, it's a good reminder.
Yeah.
Because it just, I think my perception is they feel that it's optional.
Well, they feel like no one's watching.
Yeah.
Well, also that got constructed a little bit unfortunately, in my opinion, in that the crosswalk went in and they were expecting to put the lights in like within a couple days, but the lights were not correct. Like they came in and they weren't the ones that could be installed.
So it's just,
So they had to reorder them and then it took a month for the lights to get installed. So people saw a crosswalk, but they didn't immediately see a crosswalk with all of the infrastructure in. And so I think because it was a longer construction, I do think it would be helpful. I don't mind asking if we could put a traffic sign out there that said, because now it's done, right? Well, it's mostly done. It needs a little bit of touch up with the soil and stuff like that, but now it's all there. It's working. We can put up a thing like, crosswalk ahead, stop for pedestrians and crosswalk.
Is that something we need to make a motion for?
I mean, you always can. If you do it, it's more formal, gives me a little more power.
Sure, I'll make a motion that Please Streets requests. What's the?
2 weeks, maybe at least.
Traffic DOT sign. Well, water and sewer sign, yeah.
We're requesting the use of a water and sewer sign or the deployment of a water and sewer sign to bring attention to the new crosswalk at St. Joseph's River Road.
Oh, that's good. So if I'm astride my bicycle though, do they not need to stop for me? It's like, is that technically
Well,
the rule? Like if I'm stopped, but
what
I'm
if just
still
access on the bike?
If the lights are flashing, it shouldn't matter. It's a pedestrian.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like, well, you're not a pedestrian.
well, but yeah, I was wondering like, because I kind of think it might not apply to me.
What were you gonna say, Catherine? Oh, that wasn't you?
No, if you're in a marked pedestrian crossing, that's the law, right? I mean, you've got voters have to stop for you.
Even if I'm gonna ride my bike across it.
Yeah, it's not like a side, it's not like it's illegal for you to be.
Well, I mean, I'm
I'm looking the detail up. I believe you are right. I'm gonna find the details. for it. Yeah, I believe the law.
Because bicyclists can like take a lane and do
Right.
things that pedestrians.
I know, I don't want to be
Sorry.
like,
Yeah, I think people need to get off the bike. I mean, even at the one at Aqueduct, they recommend when you get to those, you need to walk the bike across because you're a pedestrian. But it's actually more dangerous. I've seen kids on River Road by Blatnick Park with the old one we had before. They would just be whipping along on the bike path and they took a look over their shoulder and they would just shoot right across River Road. And so, I mean, if you're a bicyclist, you're supposed to observe the roads just like you were a motorist. So I think, and I mean, I don't know, like River Road, I think that we really, in part of our public education, should encourage bicyclists like at Aqueduct Road or Flower Hill to get off your bike, push the button and walk your bike across the crosswalk, then get on onto the other side and go down.
That part is right after a hurricane, so.
But
Laura, do you have enough for the motion?
Deploy, recommend or request a traffic warrant from sign to bring attention to the new crossing.
Second. Any discussion?
would we put it on one side for a week or so and then on the other one? We don't have two
How
machines.
about the side going?
I don't know, people are coming fast down the hill from Belltown Road, so
Like 2 weeks on one side and 2 weeks on the other side or something.
at least, yeah. I don't-
Or even just a week and a week. Yeah, I don't want to ask for too much.
Maybe you get them coming into work the first week and you get them leaving work the second week. I don't know.
I mean, the traffic control signs, would they give that message if you put one of those, I mean, your speed, that wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, you have to use the DOT sign.
Okay.
We are budgeting for one.
Do we have two of those or do we just have one?
I don't know what water highway has. They have some, but some are deployed. I'm not familiar what they have.
Well, let's ask if they got two. They should put one on one side and one on the other. Okay.
Sounds like, well, any other comments or discussion on that? Before we take a vote? Okay, all in favor? All against? Any abstentions? Looks like it passes, yes. Moving on, Plum Street.
So Plum Street, good news, the town board passed the change orders to put that sidewalk in, fully funded for this year.
And that's wonderful.
And I am meeting with the contractor, the town engineer, the highway superintendent. This Thursday at 2 p.m. And then I've also set up a meeting with the schools, like sort of mid-September, to coordinate with the schools what they're gonna need for that construction. And somewhere in there, I'll also meet with the homeowner again, so hoping that'll go in before.
I'm so glad they're nice homeowners.
Yeah, that makes a big difference.
So-
Yeah, that's a young couple.
And he's even like, we even told him, you know, once we build this, you have to shovel it.
And he was okay with it?
Yes.
Well, I mean, when the people on Birchwood and the people on Cornelius, I said, if the sidewalk gets built on your side, don't shovel the snow, so. it didn't-
I just don't understand.
Let me ask, is the school district paying from the homeowner's property line to the bottom of the sidewalk at Hillside Elementary School, or is this all one project and we're just gonna split the cost of the school? Or how do
Like
we-
the right of way goes from Van Antwerp to the entrance to the schools. I'm actually meeting with the schools to try and get them to do the sidewalk from the school property to the actual like playground area. But we're doing
Still
the
that
sidewalk,
difference.
yes, but we're doing the sidewalk from Van Antwerp to the entrance of the site.
To where the stop sign is at the end of
Yes.
their property.
Yeah.
We're doing a sidewalk from Van Antwerp to,
Entrance.
To
but
Nichols.
that goes,
It's Nichols Road or Nichols Ave.
Yeah,
oh,
Nichols.
so we're on the town right away there, right?
Yes.
Going up to the entrance, so we're not
We're not
taking a
able-
diagonal across the school property to get to the sidewalk at Hillside
We're
Elementary.
not able to.
No, we're not.
But the
There's
school
like
could do that.
15.
That's what I'm meeting with the schools about, coordinating construction and seeing if they can connect it on their side.
So we're just gonna go along Plum, right along there, the home, and then down to where the
Yeah, we're
entrance is.
just doing this. His house, he's very nice. And then this. And then we're gonna see if we can get the school to go from here to here. And then you can get to the everything. So the school needs to do this part.
Yeah.
And we have to do this part.
Now, are we putting a crosswalk on Nicholas to get over there, so kids that walk down Nicholas and walk on a crosswalk to get across Plum? And they would cross to the left there,
Maybe
No.
once the school does their part.
well, the street's ours, we have to.
I think that if Cornelius goes in at the top, if we were that sidewalk, then that's where those kids would go.
No, if they're coming up on Troy Road or something, they're not gonna walk all the way up to Cornelius to go down to the school,
It's the only way they learn in the building.
but they'll walk on Nicholas with, as a matter of fact, if they can take the new sidewalk to get up to the parking lot, they'll just walk on Nicholas, take
Or
the
could they
sidewalk and
open
walk
up
up
their
the parking lot and then into the school.
We are updating this crosswalk and we're making ADA landings here and here.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, but if, once this gets done, if the school builds this, then at that point, it's easy enough for the school, I think could even put their own crosswalk in at that point. They do their own crosswalks here and at the other end of the school. So
It's just not town, that's the entrance, that's school property where we have Cornelius.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would ask the school to put a crosswalk at that point. Right? I mean, once the sidewalk is in.
once, if they agree to build their sidewalk here.
The only problem with that is that it's a crosswalk to nowhere. So when the crosswalk lands over here, it's landing in the street.
That's true.
So, I mean, you can do those. We have done them, but they're unusual. So, yeah, but lots of progress.
Anybody else have any comments or questions about Plum Street project? Okay.
Well, as put out, I mean, sit John, put on spot. I do appreciate that the town board went forward and applied for the grant for Cornelius Avenue and Birchwood Lane and the one block on Palmer Avenue. So good, and the fact that it's a 50% match, I think shows that our town board is willing to put up the money to do these projects, and that's very encouraging. And I think Cornelius, along with this, is that, you know, and also the school district's willing to update the asphalt path in the back of the property that goes out to the back corner over to Van Antwerp. I mean, those are all big steps to make walking to Hillside much safer and better. And, you know, that's the first step to all of those school communities. So I'm glad the school district has been willing to be supportive and helpful. And I'm appreciate that our town board has been willing to allocate money and do this to make for safer access way for pedestrians and bicyclists to the schools.
It's mostly thanks to Laura.
I know. I'd say it's mostly you guys. You pushed me to get some stuff done. So the right time we can get it done.
Wow. All right, you're very generous.
If nobody minds, I'm gonna move the item number 3 to the end. Just because I think it's gonna be a slightly longer conversation. I think we can knock out Winnie Road priority letters. So Winnie Road.
Yeah, Winnie Road, I don't want to take off bid right now because Bill keeps asking me about it, but I still haven't made any progress on it. But I will try really hard to make that a priority for next month.
We do have the name of the gentleman, Bernie Martinez, and his phone number. And so, I mean, I spoke with his son. I called the home, son answered. You know, I think he's willing to consider an easement over there. So we just, we need to have the town attorney or the town planner contact him and just alert him that, you know, if you give us an easement here, you not be liable for people walking on it if they slip and fell, and the town will do maintenance, and, you know, we put in the asphalt. And, you know, I guess I've been encouraging, if we have a property owner that's willing to consider it, that we should, you know, give them while they're hot and do that. And then, I also feel like this is important because the town has spent a lot of money on the Flower Hill connection, and that this allows Winnie Road folks to get access to the Flower Hill connection to the bike path. And so we're only kind of following up on an investment we've already made. And then also the people down in Macaulay and over on what do we call that neighborhood? It's Shannon and
Oh, I
Avon
love
Crest
that.
North.
Crest
Avon
North.
Crest.
Those folks have really from Mohawk Avenue down to Winnie, a short strip on the sidewalk on Route 7. So I don't have to spend a lot of time on Route 7, but those neighborhoods all get access. You know, once they get over to Winnie, then they can get down to streets where they can get access to the bike path. So this little connection turns on a whole bunch of homes in terms of being able to get safe access to the Mohawk and bike path. So that's why it's a good thing.
Bill, do you want to speak on the priority letter updates in Route 7 bus?
We need to probably schedule the follow-up meeting because I think the letters had stronger language that we want to meet with them. So I think you should reach back out to everyone on the site and try and get a meeting. The letters did go to DOT in addition to all of the other things we've been doing to request attention for Route 7. DOT did say that they were doing their own study, but I asked them for a timeline and they didn't give me a timeline on when their studies took. Like, I have no idea if their study is 3 months or 3 years. So I'm gonna keep seeing if I can know. That would be helpful, for that information. And then I think the next step is schedule meetings.
I think Paulina Menzo made the point several times that,
Yes, she
we used to be a member of our committee. That we have these priorities, we send them to people, but we need to follow up with a meeting. And it certainly worked out very well with the school district because the school board members have been interested in their input, and the new superintendent of schools, Mr. Mumford, has been very interested. And so they helped us with data on the grants. They have asked their engineers to at least do some drawings of how they make each campus more walk friendly. So that's a good partnership. And just like with Hillside Elementary, and that's going well. And as I said to Ben earlier, I think Rory Fluman, the county manager, is very open to what we're doing too, that we should ask for a meeting with him just to go over here things on county roads that we'd like to see you do, including SS4A, which a big chunk of federal money that, the county might be an applicant there. It's a $5 million grant with a 20% match, another $1 million. But if we encourage the county to do that, they easier than the town would be able to find the 1 million 20% match. And if they said, okay, Glenville has a couple ideas, Rotterdam's got an idea, Niskayuna's got a couple ideas, that we'll put that together. And so, but just to talk to Rory about, okay, Grand Boulevard, to talk about the push button crosswalk that maybe would be at Region and not, just to kind of go over some of the things that we've been talking about in this committee that happen on county roads that we would like them to and to say thank you for the things that they have done on county roads is a good thing. And then I also feel Mark Cycaldo, the regional DOT engineer for the state for Niskayuna, we'd like to have a conversation with him, and it wouldn't be just us. I'm guessing it would be the town supervisor, maybe our county reps or Rory Fluman, so that we emphasize, hey, we're serious about Route 7. We have some fatalities, and as the chief of police has articulated, they need to look at some stuff. But we also have some other things that they can start looking at right now, which is, hey, how about a crosswalk at Hickory so people can get across Route 7, a privilege of the floor. We had the two ladies that came and spoke. They're very much in favor of that. And then, as Elisa's mentioned, we witnessed the people that jaywalk across Smalltown Road at Crescent. I asked the state guy for a sidewalk that can go from the gas station down to Lincoln Road to get across. And, we'd like a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit on Balltown Road in front of.
Okay.
So we need to do those things. And so we need to push to get that meeting. And it would, we'd ask if some reps from Complete Streets could go, but mostly the conversation is going to be chief of police, town supervisor, or county reps. And then, but while we've got them there, we want to say, look, we've got the big map, we've got goals, we've got priority letters, we're doing lots of things, and we'd like the state to help us out with stuff on state.
Just out of curiosity, where did you want a 20-mile all time?
On a Craig Elementary School.
School zone.
Schools and
You just want to put a school zone, not a permanent.
Yeah, school zone.
we see that as step one to, if we ever did do a crosswalk, we'd at least have the traffic slow down to 20 or 25
Right.
minutes.
Seven. So they actually.
So, what's the best way that we can support that? As far as seeking meetings and certain.
So I would say probably, did I talk to you guys on when I sent all of those emails out? You copied on when I
Yep,
sent
yep.
them? Yeah.
Well, I
it's-
think you did.
Yeah.
I mean, I would. Could we encourage a town supervisor to contact Mark Cycalden to ask for a meeting?
She has to do it. I don't mind trying. I just sent them hers.
Well, okay, yeah, let's
She's pretty busy. So
give it a try.
Yeah,
And,
yeah. maybe the state, but let me try anyway. They can ignore me for a little while, but I like to,
Mentioned that there was another person that, no, there was someone you knew at CDTC that was very cooperative, or is there someone in Mark's office that's a lower level person that,
Audrey.
yeah, well, let's start with whoever will talk to us, and,
We have to see often how often we get things.
okay.
Um,
Well, we should touch base with Rory too, because I really think the county needs to ring in and be a supporter of the town in saying to the state, Route 7 is dangerous and you need to take some steps to do it. And so they need to hear not only from the town of Muscogee, but Schenectady combined.
yeah, so I could try like by Friday to send follow-up emails to all the priority letter emails that went out.
Sure.
And then if you guys don't see the email by Friday, because I'm only working Thursday and Friday this week, then ping me. Feel free to ping me. Doesn't matter. Yeah, it's not hard. It's just a couple of minutes. So I had actually a bunch of people on there. Originally it was Brian Hirsch, and yeah, I think that's months I called out, and then I actually had Robert Rice on there, who's head of DOT Region 1. I don't remember which one responded, but they said they had received all of our notices and letters, and they were doing a study. But then I responded to him, how long does the study take? And he hasn't responded.
Laura,
I got these.
Laura, I was wondering,
As our priority.
Did you? I
do you know
had
what the
that.
scope of the study is? Do you know what the scope of the study is that DOT is doing? Because if it's just traffic, is it traffic safety? Is it based on the accidents,
I don't know. I'll see if I can find. Oh, wait, here it is. Nope. He just said we initiated a study at that time. So they started their study on April 25th, 2023.
So did you send this to Complete Streets? Because I don't recall getting this one.
No, I didn't.
By the look of that email, it sounds like it prompted them to look at it.
So actually, what prompted them to look at it was the chief of police initial. He's the one that sent the letter in April. And then I followed up with the letter from the Complete Streets, and then he said that they had started a study based on the chief's letter.
Oh,
But it doesn't say what kind of study, Catherine.
right.
So maybe when I follow up to him, I'll ask him what kind of study and what the timeline is.
Right. I mean, I doubt they're looking at pedestrian safety. So it's probably just they're looking at all the crash data, and I'm assuming that's what they're doing. So it's just for the traffic on Route 7. And so our interest would extend beyond that.
It's so sad that that's the one place in the town where there's sidewalks as far as you can see.
I know.
So that's-
Yeah, nobody. Well, some people do.
Yeah, I see people.
Some, yeah.
Is there any further discussion on the priority letters? Great, okay. The last item on the agenda for discussion items is the demonstration projects. So we met the week following our last meeting. I believe it was Jim, Laura, Bill, myself, and Elise couldn't make it. I think that was it. And we kind of just tossed around some ideas about the bike lanes on Lexington. And at that time had come up with the idea to seek approval to try a bike lane on the left side, which I had just thrown out there. And in hindsight, I've like revisited that. So I'm not really thinking that's a great idea, for a number of reasons, but that's where we were with it. And then Bill and I had a little bit of discussion about the concept of demonstration projects. So do you want to speak at all about like where we were with Lexington?
Yeah, so my follow-up to that meeting that we had was to reach out to the chief of police, the chief of fire, highway, and engineering. The chief of police is not in favor of the left side. He's okay with the right side. The chief of the fire district is okay as long as we're not putting any physical barriers in the road. But he's also concerned about the left side. And he actually had something very interesting, which I didn't think about. So he's looking at it from emergency responder point of view. And he said when they respond down the parkways, the people who are actually driving the trucks and the emergency vehicles tend to focus primarily on the right for house addresses, bikes, cars, kids darting out from their yards to see what's going on. And because there's very little activity in the center island, he thinks it would be hard for them if they were watching for bikes on the left and then kids and cars on the right and trying to find the addresses to respond to quickly. He's concerned that it would actually make, he's concerned that an emergency responder might miss something with all the stuff. that
Well,
they
having
do.
a bike lane on the right is scary.
Right,
I don't
so,
know
so
why.
he doesn't mind the right at all. He's worried about the left. So he would not recommend putting the bike lanes on the left. He's okay with it on the right. He just said as long as, put it on the right, as long as they still have the full width of the current road lanes for emergency operations on the streets. But I think we do have that because Jim designed this. I talked to Highway. Highway's not, they, can tolerate a little bit, but, Bill brought up possibly doing Sharrows instead of the bike lane, and the Highway's preference is Sharrows instead of the bike lane.
Of course it is.
I can explain that as a fallback. We had the meeting and, my take is if you have a bike lane on the left, which we've agreed to essentially drop, the town law allows people to park their cars on the right side of the road. So any town road in the town, people can park their cars there, which is, it's kind of two things. One is if you're looking on Lexington Parkway, you got a bike lane on the left and somebody's car is parked on the right. The lane is only 19 feet. So you've got 8 feet taken up by a car and 7 by a bike lane. You've got 15 feet already used up, and so there's no space for a car or a fire truck or anything to go down the road. So that doesn't work. Also, we're doing a proposed bike lane on Lex, which, we certainly still can do, but then we have to ask ourselves, well, it's a demonstration project. Where will we put bike lanes if we decide to use them in Niskayuna? Because town roads all allow motorists to park on the right side of the road in front of their house. And, I don't know if you paint a bike lane and you don't want residents to park their car there, that sort of saying, well, if there's a bike lane there now, you can't park your car in front of your house, which is not good. Now, county roads. Yeah, but not everybody can get their cars. We have to in the winter, but still, we don't. Some communities don't allow, street parking at all, but we do in this town, and that would be a heavy lift. And I guess the county doesn't allow parking, so you could do it on county roads. And I said, that's something we might talk to the county at some point, like either not or maybe Dean, if you kind of move the road to one side or the other and then made some space for bike lane, that would be something to talk about. We certainly can do it, but I guess what's the application for this? We do a demonstration project and we're going to use it somewhere else, but where's the somewhere else? There isn't any somewhere else.
All the roads are too narrow.
The roads are all too narrow to do it. So
And
what,
but what about Grand
The county's actually probably going to put bike lanes on Grand Boulevard.
Boulevard? Okay,
But Grand Boulevard's also wider.
it is wider.
Yeah.
Well, hardly anyone, people don't park there because it is a county road.
Yes, the county got funding and approval with the funding to put.
And they're gonna be on the right side.
So they're deciding right now.
Okay.
They're looking at right side, left side, and through the median.
Oh, wow.
We go to median,
Through the median.
so they're just not like gonna.
You could, but, they
Well, that
probably
was my
wouldn't.
thing. Laura said that they would make it.
They
wind
would
around
make
the
it
trees.
wind around the trees and everything and make it look very nice.
so
Yeah.
some part of me was, well, let's see what the county's experience is on Grand Boulevard, because they're doing the experiment with either left side or right side or in the middle, or they're going to hear back from residents. They're doing the experiment that we're thinking about doing on Lexington Parkway. So,
They are
That-
gonna do a trial of it too.
They talked about potentially doing a demonstration project just to get feedback. Although I think their demonstration project was for the bike lane through the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Could we just help them with theirs?
Yeah, we talked about that, but then I think we decided maybe they should just run theirs on their own.
Disaster, then we're buying a disaster along with them. We should just let them
Because I
do their project.
always have some cars parked on. So it could only be Sharrows, it sounds like.
And so that kind of,
It is a Toyota, though, yeah.
so I think that, like Bill and I were talking a little bit earlier, and not that we're trying to have a conversation outside of this about a business, but it's, you know, maybe the concept is that we do the Sharrows, because the Sharrows are somewhere that we can put on these collector streets and on these paths to the bike path. Like I was saying, this portion of Knott, you know, that before it turns into Windsor and then over to the bike path, you know, like places like that. Maybe the demonstration project, you know, is something that's more like an event, where we have like a community bike ride with an education component. We have Sharrows that go up, just for argument's sake, all the way up Knott to Windsor, over to the crosswalk, you know, the new thing. But
We
then-
did them on Orchard Park.
Yeah.
but then do a big circle, take the bike path, hit St. Joseph's, hit the new high visibility crosswalks, have volunteers at the crosswalks, like helping people cross the road for a few hours. There could be an education component. We could give out bike helmets, like he was saying, like it could be an event, you know, that we can roll out the Sharrows and that kind of stuff. And then, you know, depending on the types of materials we give them or the feedback that we get, you know, if we move forward with doing Sharrows on other streets.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking with Highway today on. They would potentially be willing to let us put the Sharrows down permanently.
Oh, nice.
I hired an engineer to look at the Orchard Park corridor specifically, and he can give us a location and dimension and spec for the Sharrows. And if the general consensus was, if I have that engineered drawing, because the Sharrows were on Orchard Park for so long, we never had any problems with them, even though they weren't supposed to be on Orchard Park for so long. That they might be willing, even though it's like an event, to let us put the Sharrows down permanently.
Yeah, stars.
That sounds great.
Crosswalks at Comanche Trail, Orchard Park, and the two entrances to ShopRite grocery store, so that we get them. They'd be, at least Orchard Park down here in Comanche Trail would be part of the project. If that's right. And what I was thinking was, if we had a bike education event, that we might have just go down to Orchard Park. For younger kids, would just go a little ways down Orchard Park, maybe just turn around and come back and go to Town Hall. If we had people with this high school bike club or others, adults, they would go down that street east, cross at the former Kelts property across from Blatnick Park, go across that crosswalk, then right up to the entrance to GE, back down the hill. Then they would come back at the push button crosswalk at St. Joseph's and River Road, and then take Orchard Park back, and then back to Town Hall. And we would have volunteers working at Blatnick Park and at the crosswalk on St. Joseph's to make sure that motors stop and that nobody goes across the crosswalk until they're walking their bikes and motorists going either way and stopped, so that we don't have somebody face the risk of being injured at St. Joseph's and River.
So it's a great question. I mean, timeline seems to point towards like late spring, just because of fall. Like I don't think we had mentioned like maybe the second weekend in October. If we could do it in that time frame, that'd be great.
I mean, the fall town road goes on. And that basically is that neighborhood around the town hall. And speaking of this new bike club, could probably get them to be there, because that's what they do.
So I guess the question is, could we get Sharrows down in a month?
I have to get the engineering drawing and share it with our attorney. But I have the stencil, so it's possible.
So
Would they use
Well,
that same stencil?
I say it's possible, but I'm not the one that schedules the highway cruise, so
Right.
that's another thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, I can't do much time on there.
I wonder when the highway crews are less busy.
It's like never less busy, sadly.
So before we completely depart from bike lanes on Lexington and go all in, or even talk about going all in and trying to make something happen this fall, I just want to ask, opinions from people not in the room. Is any other feedback on the bike lanes versus Sharrows, and, maybe the concept of having a Sharrow bike education event as our demonstration project?
We don't have an active bike group in Niskiona. That's something that Schenectady has, and they have actual, events on a pretty consistent basis where they have a large group of people that go on these bike tours, whatever you want to call them. And it's led by the Schenectady Police. Anything that educates the public in Niskiuna would be great at this point, because I just don't think there's enough people in Niskiuna that actually use bikes, other than maybe some of the high school students. And I think maybe our high school students could probably speak to that better than I can. But I think educating the public right now is I think our priority. So if we educate them on the concept of Sharrows, I think that would be great, because I think most people don't know what they are.
Okay.
I know maybe our high school students want
To kind of piggyback on what you're saying about not as many people like being bicyclists in this community, I think what we're really going to be serving is younger families who have kids, and families that want to be able to take their kids on the road to the assets and the things that we have in our town, like Blatnick Park, and even Town Hall for the farmers market, for the movie nights, for all these things. If my kids could ride in the road safely, it'd be a great thing, and I think it would only help that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's never been something that our neighborhood that I live in, that was never accessible. Nobody takes their kids on bike rides around Avon Crest North, down Mohawk Road. I mean, it's just not safe. So where you're talking about, I think it just makes a lot more sense. But there's certainly parts of Niskiuna, it's just, that's just not going to happen. There's no family trips.
I think you also have to teach people, when you want to teach people about bike education and getting kids to ride on the road, you have to teach people how to safely ride on the road. Like, signals are really important. We've already talked about that before on this today, but the rules of the road, when you can go and go the right of way.
And that could be part of the education piece.
Like, I never knew that you had to walk across crosswalks. Sometimes it says stop and walk, and I stop and walk, and sometimes there's just a crosswalk and I ride across it, and I never knew that was not allowed. A lot of people think you have to ride your bikes on the sidewalk.
Right.
Well, sometimes the car has yelled at me when I've been on a bike. Ride on the sidewalk. Oh my goodness.
I think it's illegal for you to ride your bike across the crosswalk, but I think you don't trigger the state law for the cars to stop.
That was my question. Yeah.
If you don't, I don't think it's illegal to use.
But like, a lot of people don't know how to.
Yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
So is there anybody that's totally opposed to not doing bike lanes Lexington? Because I think that's part one of this. We're moving away from bike lanes on Lexington. The education.
The Sharrows.
Sharrows on Lexington, right? Instead.
Arrows, yeah, not as a demonstration, but we would hopefully get those down permanent. Oh, Orchard.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you said Lexington.
Well, you could put it on Lexington too.
They should go.
So,
They can do the bike lane.
but if we're doing the demonstration rides, where I actually got the engineers to engineer where the Sharrows could go is Orchard Park.
You guys are cutting out a lot.
Yes.
It's hard to hear a lot of what you're saying, but I mean, so you would just use the bike lane on Lexington?
Well, we could look at it, but if we were gonna do a education event with Sharrows, where I actually got our engineers to design Sharrows was Orchard Park. And so we were talking about it, like Knott Street to Windsor, around the bike path and then down Orchard Park.
Okay.
So-
Yeah, I love that loop idea. That loop idea is great. But you're afraid you're not going to get that kind of set up in time for a month from now or whatever.
There's two questions. Well, one is the thought was doing it at town hall. We'd use the town green. We would maybe ask if there's a music group that can play for a couple hours. If people wanted to do tables, we might be able to have a place that a food truck or some pizza slices. We'd set up an information table. If the co-op or somebody wanted to sell some pastries like they do at the farmer's market to come down on the day. We do what we've done before, which is. Okay.
And that's why I was saying the spring is because like, I think we could do a real community event.
Which people have liked. They
Yeah.
really liked
I
it.
think people even recently someone was like, oh, you helped with that, by VA middle school. And
Yeah.
it was so much fun.
Yeah, so people like that one. Dexter dad.
So I was thinking, 15, 16 of October, which is the weekend after Columbus Day weekend, which is, 7 weeks or something. It's a question of, could we organize an event in 7 weeks but other things have to fall in place, which would be getting the sharrows painted and also spring does give us a little bit more time for motorists to get used to the crosswalk at River and St. Joseph's. Because now, you just get driven over the top of it. But I know that, Andrew and others have said, gee, we got to get back in the trenches of doing some public education and demonstration projects. And so if we go to the spring, again, we're moving off of 2023 in the next year. And not that that's a bad thing. It's better to do it right than do it soon, but
People love
they love them. And so, that's a question. If we thought as a group we could do something by the third week in October, we could move our feet. But if not, then shoot for a nice day in the spring, I guess.
I feel like it's maybe possible to get the shares by October, but you definitely want to be able to do it by.
Planning.
I have a same question. I was graduated, right? I did a 1 more year last meeting with us. This is it. Oh, okay.
Back the cakes.
I'm sorry. Is there a replacement?
Yes, two.
Okay,
Avi Barr and Brucey Davis.
okay. I
I'll
think I
send
know,
out the roster.
I think I know. Avi. He's a boy, right?
And you would have to ask.
Okay. I think he's one of my son's friends.
Okay. Yeah, they're both seniors.
Oh, seniors. Okay, then no, different.
So, they'll have to find new people too, but
Yeah. It's been a
I-
pleasure to have you on.
I didn't want you guys to be all alone without the high school.
That's dedication. Yeah.
I guess they weren't able to come today, but the 2:30 meeting is hard during the school, year, so.
Actually, that's another time we spring this.
Yeah.
Are there any further comments on demonstration projects? I think where we're at right now is that we're tentatively looking at the spring. And, but Laura is still gonna follow up with Highway about Sharrow placement sooner than that.
That would be great. to put it
Should
in.
we try to get sharrows painted in the fall if they'll do it, or should we save it to spring?
Then, yeah. I think there are more the places that. And then sorry to jump in there, Ian's not working with our meetings. Did you have anything that you would?
I did. I had 2 things I want to speak offline. Good for the meeting. Thanks.
Because if the police ever have a specific concern or whatever, want to refer anything to us, that's, we love establishing.
I normally tell the people that have concerns to records, so
here.
they can kind of speak for themselves.
But if they said, we don't want the bike lanes in Lexington, but we'll take Sharrows, then even though you haven't engineered it, like, it's just a straight street, can't you just have the Sharrows?
So I think they would let us do temporary shares on those.
Oh,
Yeah, just to try them, how people like them. But the reason that they don't necessarily mind them being permanent on Orchard Park is because we accidentally made them permanent on, And he said that paint was better than any paint that they were sued. Yeah. And they're kind of comfortable because they got put down there and no one complained. We educated people, we did outreach. And I actually had an engineer design them to go down the whole street, and that what is making them comfortable with looking. Yeah. But Lexington, I think the first step would be kind of like what we did on Orchard Park, only in a is to do a temporary share rows and let people see how they work.
Have a design, I mean, plans to talk to the residents on Lexington about a bike path. I mean, we can go back and talk to them about Sharrows, just to have the picture and say, here are the purpose of Sharrows. Would you be okay with these? And they may say, that's a great idea. When you do them on Orchard Park, you can put them on our street too.
You have the stencil, you have the spray paint in front of your house right now.
Yes,
We do have, yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
It's rolled up in the system mail. Yeah. It's big.
It's
It's way bigger than you think it's going to be.
Do we have any reports? At this point, unless there's any further discussion, oh, we need to talk about meetings.
And I would like to talk about meeting time. Laura's mentioned that Friday is kind of a jam day for her because she's often working on the packets for the planning board meetings, which are on Monday night. We have to get those done. And it's also the case with two students and with our co-chair, Ben, that 2:30 is a tough time to get out of school. And one thought I had was maybe moving to,
If anyone is a change.
Oh, that's right.
And when you're trying to get out, it's usually 3:30.
Oh, yeah. So let's make, like, what day of the week would you?
well, but that, I mean, it's, if we move to what, Tuesday or Wednesday, Monday doesn't work for you, or Tuesday, Wednesday,
Second or third.
but if you pushed your childcare, I mean, I like meeting for an hour and a half, so even if we did, I mean, a 3:30 to 5, but we moved to another day, like Tuesday or Wednesday, or Monday or Tuesday or something. Monday doesn't work for you, but does, or does the second or third?
Second or
Monday?
third day is fine.
Yeah, second or third.
But I mean, it's gotta work for you.
Yeah, that's, I can see, but I don't have a lot of options right now, so I'll just,
Is there an out of business hours option at all? Just
like another night, like a nighttime meeting.
like in-
I mean, honestly, I would have to see if I could get another staff person to do it, like I really can't do it. But
That's
it's
fine.
possible that someone else could, I mean, like, I
No,
could
you-
have a staff person.
So how like,
I mean, this Complete Streets used to be run by this.
how, well, what about before school?
Well, personally, I wouldn't do that.
Yeah.
School starts at 8. You really need to be there at 8:30.
Yeah.
That would be a
But
7
how late
hours.
can you stay?
Yeah, I mean, I think it'd be possible, even, I mean, I know it's still not great, but if we shifted it from 3 to 4:30.
Could Avi and Percy, I mean, once a month, could they ask to be dismissed half an hour early so they could be here at 3? It's just, you walk over to town hall. So we could start at 3, end at 4:30, which we'd be asking Laura to move a half an hour.
It might be something if you tag.
Well, on days like that, if they just say, I can't miss class today, or they'd have to be a little late, but you know, if we go from 3 to 4:30, even if they'd be 15 or 20 minutes late, that's not the end of it.
Something like that, if they're parents and they have some sort of documentation. I'm sure that that's right.
But yeah, that's
And if they're seniors, they might not even have a class then.
yes, that's true.
And 3 would be slightly easier to you.
3 would be great.
And
So that's my
we're still
recommendation.
okay with it.
Not Friday.
Yeah, so like second or third.
Second or third Monday,
Yeah.
3 to 4:30. And we'd ask the school principal for a dispensation that Avi and Percy could be dismissed half an hour early on those days, once a month. And, you know, I don't want to go to 1 hour. I mean, I just feel like we have so much business that we have to do. I mean, we used to do.
So that would play at the next meeting, maybe like,
Yeah.
do you want to just check on September 18th?
Yeah, so
Uh,
touch base with Percy and Avi, then look at the calendar and see, you know, where it works, and then send you guys an idea, and then think that'll work for everybody.
Well, that's good because that's actually the day before the conference.
Yeah, it's September, yeah, so September 18th.
Yeah, it's the
Okay, so tentatively, we would look at September 18th at 3. Would be the recommendation. Does that work for you guys?
Yes,
Andrew, you out there? Could you do, Monday, 3:30 or 3 to 4:30?
Yep, I would be able to do that.
Okay.
great.
Yeah, I do.
All right, with that, I'll make the motion to adjourn.
Go ahead.
All in favor? Yep. Thank you so much, everyone.
thank you.
And we wish you well, Elise.
Thank you. Thanks for.
Good luck. So exciting.